Join us on our 3-day road trip to France and Belgium, exploring the First World War memorials and battlefields. We began our journey in France, after a 300-mile drive from the north of England. We visited the Somme region and spent the evening in the city of Arras before continuing our journey into Belgium, exploring more sites and the historic city of Ypres. The main reason for our trip was to pay our respects to my husband's great-uncle Wilkinson, who was killed in action on the 11th of November, 1917. After a night in Calais, we took a 40-minute drive to Etaples military cemetery where Wilkinson is buried. It was a beautiful autumnal day, tinged with sadness as we contemplated the vast number of lives lost during the Great War. We then drove for an hour and a half to Albert, where you can visit the Somme Museum for €8. An absolute must-see is Lochnager crater, only 10 minutes up the road from Albert. The crater was created by a large mine, detonated beneath the German front line on the 1st of June 1916. The explosion marked the beginning of the Battle of the Somme and was the largest of 19 mines placed beneath the German front line by the British Army's 179th Tunnelling Company Royal Engineers. It is a sobering experience walking along the perimeter and reading the various plaques telling the first-hand stories of the soldiers who were involved at that time. It really does bring home the devastation of war and its futility. There are lots of memorials in this area, but we decided to visit the Beaumont Hamel, Newfoundland site next. Here you can see the trenches where the Battle of Beaumont Hamel took place. Soldiers from Newfoundland suffered massive losses on one of the bloodiest days of the war. The Germans knew the attack was coming, and the Newfoundland troops walked into a hail of machine gun and artillery fire. Over 90% of the regiment were killed that morning. After paying our respects, we moved on to Sunken Lane. This lane was situated in no man's land, directly below the German position. Just after midnight on the 1st of July, the 1st Battalion Lancashire Fusiliers crawled through a dugout tunnel to the lane and waited for their time to attack and hopefully capture the village of Beaumont Hamel. Tunnelers had planted mines at Hawthorn Ridge, and these were detonated at 7:20 a.m., 10 minutes earlier than planned. This error meant a 10-minute delay in the Fusiliers taking their position, and as they crossed no man's land, they came under heavy German fire and were cut down within a few meters of their advance, losing many lives. This initial assault had failed, but a few months another battle commenced, and the village was finally secured. The Battle of the Somme has to be one of the most deadliest battles in human history. More than 3 million men were involved, and more than 1 million were either wounded or killed in those 5 months between June and November 1916. We thought about those brave men and tried to imagine how they must have felt as they climbed out of Sunken Lane into no man's land. It was a powerful experience to be there, following in their footsteps. We walked up to Hawthorn Ridge to view the crater, before taking a 30-minute drive through the French countryside to the city of Arras, where we had booked an apartment on the outskirts of the city. We had drinks by the historic square, taking in the beautiful Flemish-style architecture, and were treated to a wonderful display of lightning behind the belfry, a World UNESCO Heritage Site. A huge Ferris wheel on Grand Place added to the charm of this beautiful city, which is most definitely worth a visit if you are in the area. The next morning, we drove for just over an hour into Belgium to visit Hill 60. It is a significant memorial site in West Flanders and was a scene of intense fighting during the Great War. The hill was of great strategic importance, as it was higher ground in a mostly flat landscape, and it changed hands between the Germans and the Allies many times. On the other side of the hill is Caterpillar Crater. This is where 2 tunnel mines were detonated underneath the German positions, resulting in one of the largest non-nuclear explosions at the time. It is such a peaceful area today, making it very difficult to imagine the scenes of absolute carnage. The site at Hill 60 has been left undisturbed since the war, and some remains from both the Allied and German forces still lie here. A 15-minute drive brought us to Tyne Cemetery, near the village of Passchendaele. This is the largest cemetery for Commonwealth forces in the world. It is the final resting place for nearly 12,000 First World War servicemen, of whom more than 8,000 remain unidentified. In addition to the graves, the site includes a memorial to the missing, which bears the names of over 34,000 soldiers who have no grave. We left the cemetery with a feeling of intense sadness and made our way to the historic town of Ypres, another 15-minute drive. We parked up near Paternobrug Bridge on the edge of town. Here we could access the ancient ramparts that surround the town. We had a beautiful scenic walk through the trees, where we could reflect on the day's events. We entered the town through the Menin gate and checked into our hotel room overlooking the Cloth Hall, a stunning building, beautifully and faithfully rebuilt after near-total destruction. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to visit the Flanders Museum housed inside the building. The town had a lovely feel to it as we wandered the cobbled streets. We had something to eat, and then spent some time reading the Menin Gate inscription, a list of over 54,000 British Empire soldiers who died in the Ypres salient, but have no known grave. In memory of these lost souls, people gather every evening at 8 p.m. to hear buglers sound the last post under the memorial's arches. Tears welled in our eyes as we listened to the music and thought about those who had made the ultimate sacrifice. It was a moving end to a very emotional trip, one which we believe every person should take at least once in their lifetime. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it has inspired you to take this trip someday for yourself. Please like, subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions.